Okay guys, right, normally I'd get the auto reader to do this, but I figured I'd give it a bit of a personal approach this time around. This is an article. I'll have it come up on the screen next to me so you can follow what I'm reading. Starts off with exposed, the Grub of Greenlane. In this exclusive report, we lift the veil on a year-long rental saga to expose possibly Auckland's worst tenant, the man being dubbed the Grub of Greenlane. And there's a picture of Paul Sisson, aka the Grub of Greenlane, there for you. Paul Sisson is a man with many hats: an ethicist, a writer, community worker, cultural ambassador, and unofficial spokesman for the downtrodden and great unwashed. But there is a less known side to this portly pensioner that until now hasn't generated headlines, and that is of a man who is in the space of 12 short months turned a modest 1950s three-bedroom home adjacent to one of Auckland's busiest highways into an absolute pig pen. Shameful. They say home is where love resides. Memories are created, friends always belong, and laughter never ends. This sadly isn't the case at Paul's home. Walk into Paul's home at 150 Greenlane East and you're not greeted by a welcoming smile or the smell of home baking, but rather the stench of urine and room after room littered with rubbish and caked in black mould. Even in a city awash with rental horror stories, few rival this sorry tale. Landlord and prominent Auckland car dealer John Murphy explains, "Paul turned the property into a pig pen. I wouldn't even let my dog stay there. Shame on you, Paul. Shame, shame, shame. When I walked into there the other day, the smell nearly knocked me over. It reeked. Worse than a public bar urinal at 3 in the morning." Yeah, there's a couple of other pictures there of the property and John's business, with good old John standing there in the middle of his car lot. 2 years ago, Sisson made headlines after complaining about the lack of nurses at Auckland Hospital. In his early 60s and grossly obese, Sisson had been admitted with sepsis, a potentially life-threatening disease caused when germs get into your system and cause infection. At the time, Sisson claimed that due to a hospital nursing shortage in his wing of the hospital, he had wet the bed twice in one night. How Sisson contracted sepsis is unclear, but if you're looking for answers, you might find them during a quick inspection of 150 Greenlane Road East. Sisson refused to discuss the sorry state of the rental property this week, but in an early text message exchanged with Murphy, he blamed the situation on the previous tenants, who have since moved to Australia. He claims he was a tidy tenant, but he had been limited in what cleaning he could carry out at the property because of illness. In one text message, he accused Murphy of harassment for demanding the property be brought up to reasonable living standards. Paul's place is now no longer Paul's place. After a long-running battle in which he refused to leave, he was finally sent packing this week. The mess Sisson left behind has shocked even Murphy, who's seen his fair share of bad tenants in his time. He says there were cigarette butts and empty drink bottles everywhere, while the curtains were covered in dense black mould. The carpet, he said, was heavily soiled, and the once white walls were caked in dirt and dust. How Paul could live like that is beyond me. I have worked hard to acquire these sorts of assets, and to have this grub treat it like that is disappointing, disrespectful, and downright not on, Murphy said. The mess was one thing, the stench was another. Quite unbelievable. Murphy has now been left with a massive cleaning bill to try and return the property to its former glory. He's not holding out much hope of ever seeing any money from Sisson to cover the bill, but at least there's one consolation, he says. Paul is gone, and good riddance to him. For 12 months I've had to put up with his constant complaining. He really is the Grub of Greenlane. And Murphy had one final warning. If you are a landlord and Paul comes calling, whatever you do, run for the hills as fast as you can. And that ends that little piece. Really shocking to hear about that sort of thing. I don't think John needs it. Alright, catch you next time. Bye now.